Hello and welcome to this lesson on the tune Daisy Daisy, and I'm going to be teaching it on this GD Anglo Concertina. This tune's proper name is actually Daisy Bell, but most people just call it Daisy Daisy, and it's a 32 bar tune and we can learn it bit by bit, bar by bar. So let's make a start. First of all, let's just get our bearings with this instrument. This may be the first lesson you've ever had on this instrument, so let's just find out what's what. Well, it's 3 rows, okay, on each side of the instrument. The middle row of the 3 rows is called the G row, because if you press the buttons on that row and push the bellows towards the closed position, you get notes found in the chord of G major. The row nearest to you is called the D row, because if you press the buttons on that row and push the bellows towards the closed position, you have notes found in the chord of D major. So GD Anglo Concertina, and the row furthest away from you is called the accidental row. That's got lots of sharps in it and some other useful notes, and we will be using that row in this piece. One of the things you have to understand about the Anglo Concertina is that although most of the melody notes, most of the tune notes are found on the right hand side, some of them can also be found on the left hand side very often when you're trying to play a tune. So you have to do a bit of a compromise, and you'll see that happen quite a lot in this tune, so be prepared for that. With the Anglo Concertina, I write my music out in treble and bass clef because it's just a lot easier than that. Okay, very often you are doing an part in this tune because it's a 3/4, it's a waltz, and you're doing a basic note and a couple of notes for your and your pa. But I like to be precise so you know exactly what to do. But don't worry if that sounds a bit complicated, because I'm going to go through each bar in turn, making sure you understand. And there are some instructional notes that you can look at as well for this tune. At the beginning it says crotchet equals 145. That means 145 beats per minute, which is quite fast for a waltz, but it works pretty well at that speed. Obviously if you can't play it as fast as I can, then slow it down to the speed that you can play it. Let's look at the very first bar and the very first note on the treble clef. I have got some music theory sheets that you can download and some stuff about the bass clef as well, so make sure you have a look at those if you're in doubt. Let's look at the very first bar. You'll see that you've got a note in the treble clef. The treble clef is the upper of the 2 clefs, the upper of the 2 staves there, and the note is D, and it's found on button 8 on the right hand side on the push, finger 3. So that's your first note of the tune, and it's a dotted minim, so it fills the bar of 3 beats. So you play it on beat 1, hold it for 3 beats. So it's 1, 2, 3, okay? Let's look at the left hand for that bar. We are pushing, of course, and what we've got here is a classic part on a G chord. Now what we do here is little finger plays button number 1, that's the note G. Now if you know your bass clef, you'll know that the note on the first line, the lowest line, is G. So that note is G, button number 1, little finger, button number 1 on the G row, everything on the G row so far, and then that's your and the pa. You come up 2 buttons to buttons 3 and 4, that gives you another G and a B. Now the G is on the 4th space of the bass clef, and the B is in the space above the 5th line. So you've got G on its own, and then G and B together, and you play that G and B together twice. So that's your pa, okay? Hope you can see that okay. So and so your right hand D note is played as you play that low G in the left hand. So you play those 2 notes together, and then while that dotted minim D is ringing, you play those 2 B and G notes together. Now it's all on the push. In fact, the first 4 bars are all on the push, so I advise you to pull your bellows out. Use your air button to help you pull them out, because you've got an awful lot on the push to start with. So there's your first bar. Now the next bar is not too dissimilar from that. You're going to change the right hand note. You're going to put your second finger on button number 7 and push in. That'll give you the note B, dotted minim, held for 3 beats, and you'll see that the left hand, the bass clef there for bar 2 is the same as bar 1. So that is, let's play those first 2 bars. And you hear the tune starting to develop. Bar 3, very similar yet again, but you're going to come to button number 6 on the right hand side. The note is G and the left hand hasn't changed. Now you'll see above that G a funny little squiggly mark. That is a mordant. If you can do it, it's this. It's a rapid alternation of the principal note, the G, the note above it, which is B, one we just played in bar 2, and back to the G. So instead of just playing G, play, crush those 3 notes in. So you'll have like that. And those first 2 notes of that crush are played before you play your first bass note, your low G. Now if you're an absolute beginner, maybe leave that because it's quite tricky, isn't it? Also notice how I'm holding my Anglo Concertina. There's no hard and fast rule about this. I tend to rest the right hand side of my concertina on my knee. Some people put it over their knee. That's not a great idea. It can wear your bellows out. But you know, I've seen some quite pro players doing that, so don't worry too much about that. All right, so we've got our first 3 bars. Now, I mentioned earlier, sometimes you get the tune on the left hand side. Here's one of those occasions, and the note of the tune is D, octave below the first one you played. And you can see it says LH, left hand. The whole of this bar is played on the left hand side of the instrument. Now what you're going to do, you're going to play that D, that low D, which is button 5, finger 1, and at the same time you're going to play the G bass note. So it's buttons 5 and 1, fingers 1 and 4 together, and then you're going to bring finger 1 down and do your 2 par notes, your B and G notes as usual. But of course your first note in the tune, the D, is only going to last for 1 beat because you can't hang on to it because you need to move that first finger from here to here. Okay, like that. So let's play the first 4 bars. So that's our first 4 bars.